To have the freedom to say what you want is something that can easily be regarded as important and valuable, especially if you consider that in some countries you do not have the right to say what you want. But what does this right to say what you want, which is called free speech or freedom of speech, actually mean? According to dictionary.com, it means the following: the right of people to express their opinions publicly without governmental interference, subject to the laws against libel, incitement to violence or rebellion, etc. So it basically means that you can say anything you want as long as you're not saying anything false, bad, and harmful about a person or organization, and you're not motivating others to rebel or use violence. So you can say anything you want, but there's a limit to what you can say. Now, some of you might think, but if I can't say anything bad about a person or organization, then what can I say? If it's an opinion that a person or organization will not like and consider harmful, are we then breaking the law? No, not necessarily. It would be strange to have a term like freedom of speech if it's used to compliment a person or organization. No, it's usually used to do the very opposite of that, which is to criticize a person or organization, or it's used to counter critics, as in to respond to or refute the criticisms made by others. Next to the words harmful and bad, I also use the word false. It's more like a combination of these three words. So as long as you're not making false statements about a person or organization, you can pretty much have any opinion you want. But is that really true? Do we have the freedom to say bad and harmful things in public as long as they are true and they do not motivate others to rebel or use violence? Now, before I get into this, let's first take a closer look at the word libel. Libel refers to saying false, bad, and harmful things about a person or organization, but only in written or published form. So if someone says something false, bad, and harmful outside in front of a building, for example, that's not considered libel, but rather slander. Slander refers to false, bad, and harmful statements that are spoken. Now, a combination of these two terms is called defamation. So I'd say they should replace libel with defamation in that definition. Or maybe the etc. in the definition also refers to slander and defamation, among other things. Anyway, let's go back to the question of whether we can say bad and harmful things as long as they are true and they don't encourage others to rebel or use violence. Would it be okay to say you're for or against abortion, for example, even if it's considered offensive by the opposition? Or would it be okay to threaten to hurt a person, causing them distress and fear? While neither example falls under the terms defamation and incitement, there is a distinct difference between the two. Both have the potential to be seen as harmful, but one is unfair and unjust, while the other is not. Having an opinion about abortion that differs from others is just a difference of opinion. It doesn't inherently cause direct harm. Feeling offended by someone else's opinion is not necessarily the speaker's fault. Expressing an opinion about abortion is not intended to cause harm, but rather to share one's thoughts, feelings, and beliefs about the topic. On the other hand, threatening to hurt someone is intended to cause harm. And the same can be said about defamation, incitement, bullying, and expressions of dislike or hate. Speaking of hate, there's also something called hate speech. Let's see what it stands for. According to Cambridge Dictionary, hate speech means public speech that expresses hate or encourages violence towards a person or group based on something such as race, religion, sex, or sexual orientation, the fact of being gay, etc. So it means that you say something hateful towards people, or you motivate others to use violence towards people, and this is based on things like race or gender, for example. Now, this is obviously considered unfair and unjust, as it is intended to cause harm based on people's characteristics. To publicly express hate towards gay people, Jews, or Asians, for example, is, of course, a bad thing. Even when it's done behind closed doors, thus not in public, it is still a bad thing. Hate, in general, is an unhealthy emotion that can lead to harmful behaviors. Alright, let me now quote the British author Douglas Murray. He once said, "A society in which even your deepest feelings can be trodden upon is the only society worth living in." What he meant is that one should be able to express an opinion about basically anything, including things you're not supposed to talk about or criticize, without being afraid of being censored or punished for it. Those who want to punish or censor people for saying things they don't like, as well as those who simply dislike opinions that differ from theirs, should realize that you can't organize the world in a way that prevents you from being negatively affected. We cannot rely on people to behave in a way that suits us, especially when our expectations of them are unfair and unjust. There's no such thing as a utopia or your own ideal world. We have to learn to treat each other with respect, but at the same time, we also have to learn to respond assertively when the situation calls for it. Let's use words to agree or disagree in a respectful way.